Welcome to today's video, where we'll delve into the profound ways in which this ancient philosophy can help you master your mind and elevate your intelligence. In a world full of distractions, complexities, and challenges, the ability to cultivate a focused, resilient, and sharp mind is more valuable than ever. Stoicism offers a timeless blueprint for achieving this mental mastery. At its core, Stoicism isn't just about enduring life's hardships with a calm demeanor. It's also about actively honing your mental faculties, just as you would train a muscle, and understanding that the mind is a tool that can be developed, strengthened, and sharpened over time. The Stoics understood that the human mind, when left unchecked, can easily fall into patterns of distraction, emotional reactivity, and confusion. But much like a sculptor chiseling away at marble to reveal the form hidden within, Stoicism teaches us how to remove mental clutter, refine our thoughts, and shape our thinking into something more disciplined and effective. The ancient Stoic philosophers such as Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus emphasized that intelligence is not a fixed trait. Rather, it's something that can be cultivated through consistent practice, reflection, and the application of timeless principles. In their view, the mind is the seat of human excellence. Every great achievement, every act of virtue, every moment of insight begins with a well-trained mind. And while modern education tends to focus heavily on memorization and the accumulation of knowledge, the Stoics teach us that true intelligence is much deeper. It's about how we apply that knowledge in our daily lives, how we manage our thoughts in the face of adversity, and how we maintain clarity of mind amid the chaos of existence. To the Stoics, intelligence isn't just intellectual prowess, it's about wisdom, discernment, and the ability to remain rational and composed when everything around us is in flux. By understanding the mind as something that can be trained, Stoicism provides a framework for continuous self-improvement. The Stoics believed that every moment offers an opportunity to practice mental discipline, whether it's through reflection on our thoughts and actions or through intentional focus on the present. They recognized that life's challenges, no matter how overwhelming, can serve as catalysts for intellectual growth if approached with the right mindset. When we learn to view obstacles as opportunities to refine our thinking, we begin to tap into the deeper layers of our intelligence. We start to realize that true mental strength isn't about having all the answers, but about developing the capacity to think critically, adapt, and respond with wisdom to whatever life throws our way. This is where the brilliance of Stoicism truly shines. It doesn't ask you to retreat from the world or to passively endure its challenges. Instead, it encourages you to engage fully with life's complexities, using each experience as a chance to sharpen your mental tools. Intelligence, from the Stoic perspective, isn't merely about being quick-witted or having vast knowledge. It's about cultivating the capacity to think clearly, make sound judgments, and act in accordance with reason, no matter the circumstances. The Stoics recognized that mental sharpness comes from a deep alignment between thought and action, between wisdom and practice. This is how we unlock the full potential of our minds. The Stoics also remind us that the process of mastering the mind is ongoing. It's not something we achieve once and for all, but something we must continuously work on throughout our lives. Just as an athlete must keep training to maintain physical fitness, we must engage in consistent mental exercises to refine our thinking. This process of intellectual growth doesn't happen overnight, nor does it come without effort. But the rewards are profound. By following the Stoic path, we learn to cultivate a mind that is resilient, focused, and wise. A mind that can navigate life's challenges with clarity and insight. In today's fast-paced world, where distractions are constant and attention is a precious commodity, the Stoic approach to mental mastery is more relevant than ever. The ability to focus deeply, think critically, and maintain emotional balance in the face of pressure is what separates those who thrive from those who merely survive. Stoicism gives us the tools to do just that. It provides us with the intellectual framework to elevate our intelligence by teaching us how to train our minds, manage our emotions, and approach life with a sense of calm rationality. As we delve deeper into the teachings of Stoicism, we'll uncover 5 strategies that can help you harness the power of your mind and unlock your full intellectual potential. Whether you're looking to improve your focus, sharpen your critical thinking, or simply navigate life with more clarity, these Stoic principles offer timeless wisdom that can help you achieve mental mastery in a way that's practical, meaningful, and lasting. Let's explore how the Stoics approach the art of thinking and how these ancient strategies can elevate your intelligence to new heights. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies the idea of directing your attention to what is within your control. This concept may seem simple, but it holds profound implications for how we think, act, and ultimately elevate our intelligence. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, was a living example of how focus can transform one's ability to navigate life's complexities. His personal writings, often referred to as meditations, are filled with reminders to himself about the importance of focusing on the present moment and filtering out distractions. This wasn't just about staying calm under pressure, but about sharpening the mind to its fullest potential. In a world as fast-paced and chaotic as ours, where distractions come in every form, social media, constant notifications, competing responsibilities, it is increasingly difficult to maintain focus. And yet, focus is the foundation of all intellectual growth. The Stoics knew this long before modern psychology and neuroscience confirmed it. The ability to direct our attention, to be fully present with a task or thought, is what allows us to engage deeply with ideas, problems, and solutions. They called this prososh, which means attention or mindfulness. Unlike the modern notion of mindfulness, which is often associated with relaxation or stress relief, Stoic mindfulness is an active, deliberate practice of focusing on what matters most in any given moment. By filtering out what is irrelevant, whether it be external distractions or internal worries, the mind is able to operate at a higher level. Marcus Aurelius urged himself time and again to focus on what was before him, not what was out of his control. This emphasis on the present moment is crucial to Stoicism. The more we concentrate on what we can actively influence, the more mental energy we free up for higher level thinking. Imagine your mind as a lens. The more focused the lens, the clearer the image. Similarly, the more focused your attention, the sharper your intellect becomes. When we allow ourselves to be pulled in multiple directions, thinking about past mistakes, worrying about future outcomes, or getting lost in irrelevant distractions, we dilute the quality of our thinking. This scattered mental energy prevents us from truly understanding and engaging with the world around us. But by learning to direct our focus, we can cut through the noise and reach a deeper level of understanding. This is where true intelligence begins to flourish. Instead of being overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information and tasks vying for our attention, we can deliberately choose where to invest our mental resources, allowing for more thoughtful and effective decision-making. The Stoics also believed that focusing on the present allowed for clearer moral and ethical judgment. When your mind is not clouded by external distractions or internal turmoil, you can better evaluate what is right, what is just, and what is worth your time and energy. This kind of clarity is what enables people to make decisions that align with their values and long-term goals, rather than being swayed by fleeting emotions or external pressures. It's not just about thinking more clearly, it's about thinking with purpose and integrity. Moreover, embracing the power of focus does not mean forcing yourself into a rigid state of constant concentration. Instead, it's about cultivating the mental discipline to return to what matters when your mind starts to wander. In fact, the Stoics understood that the mind will naturally drift. After all, it's part of being human. But the key is to gently bring it back to the task at hand, without judgment or frustration. This practice of refocusing is like exercising a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger your ability to concentrate becomes. Over time, this enhanced focus leads to a sharper, more disciplined mind, capable of handling complex problems with ease. In modern terms, we might call this the ability to enter the zone or achieve a state of flow where we are fully immersed in what we are doing and time seems to melt away. The Stoics, in their own way, were describing something similar. By learning to focus, we enter a mental space where we are no longer distracted by the trivial, allowing us to engage deeply with what truly matters. This deep engagement is what allows us to process information more effectively, solve problems more creatively, and think more critically. But focus is not just about improving productivity or problem solving, it also enhances our emotional intelligence. When we focus on the present, we become more aware of our emotions as they arise, instead of being swept away by them. The Stoics taught that our emotions are often the result of misjudgments or distorted thinking. By focusing on what is happening in the moment rather than getting lost in assumptions or anxieties, we gain a clearer understanding of our emotional responses. This heightened awareness enables us to manage our emotions more effectively, leading to greater emotional stability and resilience. Another aspect of Stoic focus is the practice of simplicity. The Stoics believed that by reducing unnecessary distractions and focusing only on what is essential, we simplify our lives and create space for deeper thought and reflection. Seneca often wrote about the importance of avoiding the trap of busyness for busyness' sake, urging people to focus their time and energy on what truly matters. In a world where we are constantly bombarded with choices and obligations, this practice of simplifying can free up our mental bandwidth, allowing us to think more clearly and make better decisions. So how can you begin to embrace the power of focus in your own life? Start by identifying what is truly within your control. Focus your attention on the tasks, decisions, and thoughts that you can actively influence, and let go of the rest. Practice mindfulness in the Stoic sense, not as a passive relaxation technique, but as an active engagement with the present moment. When distractions arise, acknowledge them and gently bring your mind back to what matters. Over time, you'll find that your ability to focus becomes stronger, your thinking becomes clearer, and your intellectual capacity grows. Incorporating this Stoic principle of focus into your daily routine can be transformative. Not only will you find that you are more productive and efficient, but you'll also experience a greater sense of clarity and peace. Your mind will become a well-tuned instrument, capable of cutting through the distractions of modern life and engaging deeply with the challenges and opportunities before you. And in doing so, you'll elevate your intelligence, not just in terms of knowledge or skill, but in your ability to think critically, act wisely, and live with purpose. As you continue to cultivate the power of focus, you'll start to notice its ripple effects throughout your intellectual and emotional life. In our modern world, where multitasking is often celebrated, the Stoic approach to single-minded focus is countercultural, but that's precisely what makes it so powerful. When you intentionally direct your attention to one thing at a time, you're not only improving the quality of your work, but also enhancing your ability to think critically and creatively. Focus brings depth to everything you do. Consider how shallow your understanding of something is when you're distracted or trying to juggle too many things at once. You may feel productive, but in reality, you're simply skimming the surface. The Stoics understood that true mastery, whether it's mastery of a skill, a subject, or even your own mind, requires deep focus. This depth allows you to uncover nuances, ask better questions, and arrive at more meaningful insights. It transforms how you engage with the world, turning every experience into an opportunity for learning and growth. Furthermore, embracing focus helps in reducing mental fatigue. Think of your mind as a battery. Each time you switch tasks or divide your attention, you drain a little bit of that mental energy. The constant shifting between thoughts or activities doesn't allow your mind to settle into a rhythm, making it harder to concentrate and retain information. The Stoic practice of deliberate focus, on the other hand, conserves your mental energy. By committing to one thing at a time, you give your mind the space to function at its highest level, ensuring that you're not only more productive, but also more mentally refreshed. When you focus on a task, you're not just training your mind to work better, you're also learning to navigate the inevitable distractions and temptations that arise in everyday life. In Stoicism, this ability to resist distractions is tied to the concept of self-discipline, a core virtue. Focus, then, is not only an intellectual practice, but a moral one. It requires self-discipline to say no to the things that don't matter, to set aside the trivial, and to concentrate on what truly aligns with your values and long-term goals. In this way, focus strengthens both your mind and your character. The Stoics also saw focus as a way to align the mind with the natural order of the universe. This might sound abstract, but it's rooted in their belief that the universe operates according to reason, and so should we. When you focus your mind on what is within your control, you are, in a sense, aligning yourself with the rational flow of life. You're not fighting against reality or wasting energy on things you cannot change. Instead, you're using your mental energy wisely, directing it toward what is productive and meaningful. This not only elevates your intelligence, but also brings you closer to living a virtuous and harmonious life. Another benefit of embracing focus is its impact on decision-making. When your mind is clear and centered on the present, you're able to process information more effectively. This clarity leads to better, more thoughtful decisions because you're not overwhelmed by irrelevant data or emotional impulses. The Stoics believed that good decision-making was a key aspect of wisdom, and wisdom, in turn, was the highest form of intelligence. By mastering focus, you develop the ability to weigh your options more carefully, think through consequences, and choose the path that aligns with both logic and virtue. Additionally, focus enhances your emotional regulation. The Stoics knew that our emotions often cloud our judgment, especially when we're distracted or overwhelmed. By practicing focus, you give yourself the opportunity to observe your emotions more clearly and respond to them rationally. When you're fully present, you're better equipped to notice the onset of emotions like anger, fear, or frustration. Instead of reacting impulsively, you can take a step back, analyze the situation, and choose how to respond. This emotional clarity not only elevates your emotional intelligence, but also makes you more resilient in the face of life's inevitable challenges. Over time, the practice of focus becomes a habit, one that transforms how you approach every aspect of life. Whether you're working on a complex problem, having a conversation, or simply reflecting on your day, the ability to focus allows you to engage with greater presence and intention. You'll find that you can dive deeper into subjects that interest you, retain more information, and apply what you've learned in more meaningful ways. In essence, focus opens the door to intellectual growth, making it one of the most powerful tools in your quest to elevate your intelligence. To the Stoics, the disciplined practice of focus wasn't just about being more efficient, it was about living a better, more thoughtful life. By focusing on what truly matters, you align your thoughts and actions with your values, making you not only more intelligent, but also more virtuous. As you embrace this practice, you'll find that your mind becomes sharper, your emotions more balanced, and your decisions more aligned with your long-term goals. This journey of mastering focus is a lifelong one. There will be moments when distractions pull you off course, but the key, as the Stoics teach, is to gently bring your attention back to where it belongs. With each moment of focused attention, you are not only training your mind, but also building a foundation for a richer, more meaningful life. This is how you elevate your intelligence through the art of focus. By consistently practicing the discipline of attention, you unlock the deeper potential of your mind and begin to navigate life with greater clarity, purpose, and wisdom. As you continue to develop your capacity for focus, you'll begin to see how this seemingly simple practice transforms not only your intellect, but also your entire approach to life. The Stoics understood that focus is the gateway to wisdom because it allows us to see the world more clearly without the fog of distractions, anxieties, or unnecessary complications. When you are truly focused, you're not just seeing the surface of things. You're penetrating deeper into their nature, understanding them more fully, and therefore engaging with them in a way that is both more intelligent and more profound. This deep engagement with life is one of the most valuable outcomes of practicing Stoic focus. Think about any great work of art, any scientific breakthrough, or any remarkable achievement in human history. None of these were accomplished by people who were scattered or distracted. They were the result of intense, sustained focus. And the Stoics would argue that this kind of focused attention isn't reserved for geniuses or historical figures. It's something we all have the capacity to develop within ourselves. In fact, it's one of the most human things we can do: direct our attention with intention, with purpose, and with clarity. By practicing focus, you also cultivate a sense of presence in your everyday life. This presence is essential to intelligence because it enables you to fully experience each moment and learn from it. When your mind is scattered, you miss out on the details, the nuances, and the richness of life. But when you are fully present, you notice things that others might overlook. You pick up on patterns, subtleties, and insights that can deepen your understanding of the world. This heightened awareness allows you to connect ideas, think critically, and approach challenges with creativity and innovation. One of the most significant ways focus enhances intelligence is through the power of observation. The Stoics believed that careful observation of the world and of oneself was key to gaining wisdom. When you're focused, you become a more attentive observer, not just of external events, but also of your own thoughts, feelings, and reactions. This self-awareness is crucial for intellectual growth. It allows you to question your assumptions, challenge your biases, and refine your thinking. Instead of reacting automatically to situations, you become more deliberate in your responses, which leads to more thoughtful, reasoned actions. In a broader sense, focus also brings clarity to your priorities. So much of life's complexity comes from not knowing where to direct your time and energy. The Stoics taught that when you focus on what is within your control, you simplify your life. You stop wasting energy on things you cannot influence and instead invest your mental resources in what truly matters: your actions, your choices, and your character. This focus on what's essential enables you to make better decisions and live a life that is more aligned with your values. As you refine your ability to focus, you'll also notice that it strengthens your resilience. Life is full of distractions, both external and internal. Whether it's the noise of the outside world or the chatter of your own mind, there will always be things trying to pull you off course. But the more you practice focus, the more resilient your mind becomes. You learn to filter out the noise and return your attention to what's important. This mental resilience is one of the hallmarks of Stoic intelligence. It's the ability to stay calm, composed, and clear-headed even in the midst of chaos. Moreover, focus helps you develop a more deliberate and strategic approach to problem solving. When you're fully focused on a problem, you can break it down into its component parts, analyze it from different angles, and come up with creative solutions. This kind of deep analytical thinking is what separates superficial understanding from true mastery. The Stoics were masters of this kind of thought process. They believed that through focused reflection and inquiry, one could arrive at deeper truths about the nature of the world and the human condition. This pursuit of truth is what elevates intelligence from mere knowledge to wisdom. In practical terms, embracing focus means learning to create an environment that supports your attention. The Stoics often spoke of the importance of cultivating inner and outer environments that promote tranquility and clarity of thought. This might mean reducing distractions in your workspace, setting aside time for uninterrupted work, or developing rituals that help you enter a state of deep concentration. The more you practice creating these focused spaces, the more naturally your mind will settle into a state of flow, a state where you can think deeply and work efficiently. Beyond the intellectual benefits, focus also has a profound impact on your relationships. When you are fully present with someone, whether in conversation, in collaboration, or in support, you give them your full attention. This kind of presence strengthens your connections with others, because people can sense when you are truly listening and engaging with them. The Stoics believed that focus wasn't just about solitary thought, it was also about how you show up in the world and in your relationships. By being present with others, you demonstrate respect, empathy, and a willingness to learn from them. Qualities that enhance not only your intelligence, but also your humanity. In a way, focus is the key that unlocks the Stoic ideal of eudaimonia, or flourishing. It allows you to live more fully, to engage more deeply with the world, and to develop a mind that is both sharp and compassionate. Through focus, you cultivate a sense of inner calm, even when the world around you is chaotic. You become less reactive and more thoughtful, less scattered and more deliberate. This is the essence of Stoic intelligence, not just the ability to think quickly or solve problems, but the capacity to think wisely and live with purpose. The Stoic tradition places a significant emphasis on the idea of continuous learning, a principle that they believed was fundamental to both personal growth and intellectual development. To the Stoics, the pursuit of knowledge was not a finite endeavor. There was no ultimate finish line where one could claim to have learned all there is to know. Instead, learning was viewed as a lifelong practice, an endless journey that deepened one's understanding of the world and oneself. This philosophy of episteme, the continuous acquisition of knowledge, was woven into the fabric of Stoic thought and serves as one of the most effective strategies for elevating intelligence. At the heart of this Stoic approach to learning is the understanding that human beings are, by nature, curious and capable of intellectual growth. The Stoics saw wisdom as the highest virtue and believed that to pursue wisdom, one must remain a student of life, always open to new insights, perspectives, and experiences. For them, the mind was like fertile soil. It could be cultivated through the consistent planting of knowledge, allowing it to grow and bear fruit. This notion extends beyond formal education or academic learning. It touches on every aspect of life. Every interaction, every experience, every moment offers an opportunity to learn something new, and the Stoics embraced this with open minds. In this way, Stoicism teaches that intelligence is not a static trait, but something that can be continuously developed. The Stoics did not see learning as a passive accumulation of facts or information. Rather, it was an active process of questioning, reflecting, and applying what was learned to everyday life. This distinction is crucial. To merely gather knowledge without applying it would be, in Stoic eyes, useless. Knowledge must be integrated into one's thoughts, actions, and decisions in order to have value. As Seneca famously wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Wasting time, to the Stoics, included filling one's mind with trivialities or failing to deepen one's understanding through thoughtful engagement with what was learned. In today's world, where information is abundant and readily accessible, the Stoic approach to learning remains particularly relevant. We are constantly bombarded with data, news, and opinions, but without discernment and depth, this flood of information can overwhelm us rather than elevate us. The Stoics would argue that true learning is not about how much we know, but how well we know what we know. It's about diving deep into subjects that matter, engaging critically with ideas, and seeking to understand the underlying principles that govern them. This depth of knowledge is what elevates intelligence beyond mere familiarity with facts. it transforms it into wisdom. The Stoic practice of continuous learning is also rooted in humility. For the Stoics, intellectual arrogance, thinking that one already knows enough or has nothing left to learn, was a grave mistake. This humility in learning is exemplified by Socrates, often regarded as one of the greatest influences on Stoic thought. Socrates famously claimed that he knew nothing, and this acknowledgement of his own ignorance was precisely what made him wise. The Stoics took this lesson to heart, understanding that the more one learns, the more one realizes how much remains unknown. This sense of intellectual humility drives the desire to keep learning, to keep questioning, and to never settle for superficial understanding. Moreover, continuous learning in Stoicism is not limited to theoretical knowledge. The Stoics believed in practical wisdom, phronesis, the kind of intelligence that comes from applying knowledge to real-life situations. They saw learning as incomplete unless it was put into action. This practical application of knowledge is what transforms intellectual insight into wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, in his Reflections, frequently reminded himself not to get lost in abstractions, but to apply what he had learned to the real challenges of life. For the Stoics, the ultimate purpose of learning was not simply to know more, but to live better. In this sense, continuous learning becomes a tool for self-improvement. It allows us to constantly refine our thoughts, behaviors, and actions. The Stoics believed that through learning, we could correct our misconceptions, improve our moral judgment, and align ourselves more closely with reason and virtue. Each new insight, each piece of knowledge, offers an opportunity for growth. Whether it's learning from a book, a conversation, or a personal failure, the Stoics teach us to embrace every chance to learn as a stepping stone toward becoming a wiser, more capable person. Another key aspect of Stoic learning is reflection. The Stoics didn't just absorb information, they reflected deeply on what they learned. This process of reflection allowed them to internalize knowledge, turning it into actionable wisdom. For example, Epictetus often advised his students to review their day at the end of the evening, asking themselves what they had learned and how they could apply it. This reflective practice is essential for turning knowledge into something meaningful. Without reflection, information remains disconnected from our lives, but through reflection, it becomes integrated into our thoughts and actions, shaping who we are and how we interact with the world. The Stoics also understood that learning was not only an individual pursuit, but a communal one. They valued learning from others, whether through philosophical discussions, mentorship, or simply observing how others lived their lives. Seneca, in particular, emphasized the importance of reading and studying the works of great thinkers as a way to enrich one's own understanding. He believed that by engaging with the thoughts of those who came before us, we could stand on their shoulders and reach higher levels of wisdom. This sense of intellectual community, of learning from both the living and the dead, was a central component of Stoic learning. It reminds us that we are part of a larger human tradition of inquiry and wisdom, and by learning from others, we elevate not only our own intelligence, but contribute to the collective pursuit of knowledge. In embracing continuous learning, the Stoics also advocated for a sense of curiosity and openness to new experiences. They recognized that the world is constantly changing and that to remain intellectually stagnant is to fall behind. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of being adaptable, of being open to changing one's mind when presented with new evidence. This adaptability is a crucial aspect of intelligence because it allows us to grow and evolve rather than cling rigidly to outdated beliefs. The Stoic commitment to learning is therefore a commitment to intellectual flexibility, to being willing to revise our understanding in light of new insights. Furthermore, continuous learning from the Stoic perspective is not a solitary or selfish endeavor. It's tied to the broader Stoic ideal of cosmopolitanism, the belief that we are all part of a larger human community. The knowledge we gain is not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of others. The Stoics believed that wisdom should be shared and used to improve society. By learning more, we become better equipped to contribute to the well-being of others, whether through teaching, guiding, or simply living as an example of virtue and reason. In this way, the Stoic commitment to learning is also a commitment to service. This continuous pursuit of knowledge also brings a sense of purpose and meaning to life. The Stoics believed that learning was not just a means to an end, but a vital part of what it means to live well. To learn is to engage with life, to participate in the unfolding of the universe's mysteries. It's a way of aligning ourselves with the Stoic belief that the universe is rational and that by understanding it more deeply, we live in harmony with it. Continuous learning, then, becomes a way of connecting to the larger forces of nature and reason that the Stoics revered. As we dive deeper into the Stoic principle of continuous learning, it's important to recognize how this approach shapes our relationship with challenges, mistakes, and setbacks. The Stoics understood that failure is an inevitable part of life, and instead of fearing it, they embraced it as a valuable opportunity for learning and growth. For them, mistakes were not something to be ashamed of or to avoid at all costs. Rather, they were crucial learning experiences that provided the raw material for intellectual and personal development. This mindset is particularly important when we think about elevating intelligence through Stoicism, because it reframes failure as a stepping stone to wisdom rather than an obstacle to success. In the Stoic tradition, failure is seen as one of life's greatest teachers. When we fail, we are confronted with the limits of our current knowledge and abilities. The Stoics believed that it is precisely at these moments, when we are challenged, when we face adversity, that we have the greatest opportunity to learn and grow. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that the obstacles he faced were not barriers to his progress, but rather opportunities to test and refine his character and intellect. He viewed every challenge as a chance to strengthen his wisdom and become more attuned to the world around him. This perspective is essential for developing resilience, another key component of Stoic intelligence. In modern life, we often shy away from failure, viewing it as a mark of incompetence or weakness. But the Stoics would argue that to fear failure is to miss out on one of the most powerful learning tools available to us. By reframing failure as a necessary part of the learning process, we open ourselves up to greater intellectual growth. When we fail, we are forced to confront the gaps in our knowledge or the flaws in our reasoning, and this confrontation can lead to breakthroughs in understanding. The Stoics teach us to approach these moments with humility and curiosity, asking ourselves what we can learn from the experience and how we can improve moving forward. Another vital aspect of continuous learning in Stoicism is the cultivation of intellectual virtues like patience and persistence. Learning, especially the kind of deep, transformative learning that the Stoics valued, takes time. It requires the willingness to engage with complexity, to sit with difficult questions, and to grapple with uncertainty. The Stoics knew that the path to wisdom was not a quick or easy one. It involved steady, consistent effort over the course of a lifetime. This is why they emphasized the importance of patience in learning. They understood that true knowledge is not something that can be acquired overnight, but is built slowly through sustained attention and reflection. In our fast-paced, results-driven society, this kind of patience can be hard to cultivate. We are often tempted to seek shortcuts or quick fixes, hoping to master new skills or gain new knowledge with minimal effort. But the Stoic approach to learning reminds us that there are no shortcuts to wisdom. The most valuable insights come not from rushing through the process, but from embracing the slow, deliberate work of deep thinking and careful reflection. This is where persistence becomes essential. The Stoics knew that the pursuit of knowledge could be frustrating at times, especially when we encounter difficult concepts or face setbacks. But they encouraged persistence, reminding us that every small step forward brings us closer to a greater understanding. The idea of persistence in learning is closely linked to the Stoic concept of ascesis, or disciplined practice. For the Stoics, learning was not just an intellectual exercise, but a daily practice that involved repeated effort and refinement. Just as an athlete must train regularly to improve their physical strength, the Stoics believed that the mind must be exercised consistently in order to grow stronger. This meant that continuous learning wasn't something to be done sporadically or when convenient, but was a constant, intentional process. Whether it was through reading, reflecting, or engaging in philosophical dialogue, the Stoics committed themselves to learning every day, understanding that wisdom is the result of cumulative effort over time. Moreover, the Stoic emphasis on continuous learning extends beyond the intellectual realm and into the moral and ethical dimensions of life. For the Stoics, learning was not just about acquiring knowledge for its own sake. It was about becoming a better, more virtuous person. They believed that through the study of philosophy and the pursuit of wisdom, one could learn how to live in alignment with nature and reason, which in turn would lead to a more fulfilling and meaningful life. This is why the Stoics placed such a high value on self-examination and ethical reflection. They knew that in order to truly elevate one's intelligence, it wasn't enough to learn about the external world. One also had to learn about oneself, about one's desires, fears, habits, and motivations. This self-awareness is a crucial part of Stoic learning because it allows us to identify where we need to grow and improve. The Stoics encouraged regular self-reflection as a way to monitor one's progress on the path to wisdom. By examining our thoughts and actions, we can see where we have acted in alignment with reason and where we have fallen short. This process of self-examination helps us to identify our weaknesses and blind spots, which are often the areas where the greatest learning can take place. The Stoics didn't expect perfection from themselves or others, but they did expect an ongoing commitment to learning and improvement. In this way, Stoic learning is deeply tied to the concept of arete, or excellence. For the Stoics, the pursuit of knowledge was not just about becoming more intelligent, it was about striving to become the best version of oneself. This meant not only developing one's intellectual abilities, but also cultivating moral virtues like courage, justice, and self-control. The Stoics believed that true intelligence was holistic. It involved not just sharpness of mind, but also strength of character. Through continuous learning, they sought to harmonize their intellectual and moral capacities, knowing that wisdom required both. This holistic approach to learning is what makes the Stoic path to intelligence so powerful. It teaches us that learning is not confined to books or classrooms, but is something that happens in every aspect of life. Whether we are faced with a difficult decision, a personal challenge, or a moral dilemma, we are constantly learning about the world, about others, and about ourselves. The Stoics invite us to embrace this process with openness and humility, understanding that every experience, no matter how small, has something to teach us. As we continue exploring the Stoic principle of continuous learning, it's essential to recognize how this pursuit shapes not only the intellect, but also the emotional and spiritual dimensions of life. For the Stoics, learning wasn't merely an intellectual exercise, but a deeply transformative process that touched every part of the human experience. Through the act of learning, we become more aware of ourselves and the world around us. This awareness, in turn, allows us to cultivate greater emotional balance, deeper resilience, and a stronger connection to the natural order of things. In many ways, continuous learning in Stoicism serves as a bridge between knowledge and wisdom, between understanding and action. At the core of this transformation is the Stoic belief that learning helps us align with the rational, orderly nature of the universe. The Stoics saw the cosmos as governed by reason, or logos, and they believed that human beings as rational creatures have a natural capacity to understand and live in harmony with this cosmic order. Through learning, we develop the intellectual tools necessary to navigate life's complexities in a way that reflects this harmony. This means that Stoic learning is not just about acquiring factual knowledge or mastering academic subjects. It's about developing a worldview that is deeply connected to the principles of nature and reason. One of the most profound aspects of Stoic learning is how it teaches us to perceive the world differently. As we learn more about Stoic philosophy and the principles that govern life, we start to see events not as random or chaotic, but as part of a larger, purposeful system. The Stoics believed that everything in life happens for a reason, and while we may not always understand that reason in the moment, we can trust that it is aligned with the greater good. This shift in perspective, brought about through learning and reflection, allows us to approach life's challenges with a sense of calm and acceptance. We stop resisting the natural flow of events and instead work to understand our place within them. This Stoic perspective on learning fosters what we might call philosophical resilience. When we learn to see the world as the Stoics did, as a rational, ordered system, we become less reactive to the ups and downs of daily life. We realize that while we may not control external events, we do control how we respond to them. This understanding is a powerful tool for emotional regulation, helping us to remain composed in the face of adversity. In this way, continuous learning in Stoicism strengthens not only our intellect, but also our emotional intelligence. We learn to navigate our emotions with greater clarity and balance, recognizing that our reactions are within our control even if the circumstances are not. Furthermore, continuous learning helps us cultivate a sense of gratitude for the world as it is. The Stoics emphasized the importance of accepting reality without complaint or resistance. Through learning, we come to appreciate the inherent order and beauty of the universe, even in its challenges and imperfections. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reflected on the idea that everything in nature has its place and purpose, and that by understanding this, we can find peace. Learning teaches us to see the interconnectedness of all things and to develop a sense of awe and appreciation for the way life unfolds, even when it does not go according to our personal plans. This appreciation for the natural order also extends to our relationships with other people. The Stoics believed that continuous learning could help us understand human nature more deeply, leading to greater empathy and compassion. By studying philosophy, ethics, and human behavior, we develop a clearer sense of what motivates people, what drives their actions, and how we can best interact with them. This deeper understanding of human nature allows us to navigate social situations with more wisdom and patience, reducing conflict and fostering more harmonious relationships. In this sense, Stoic learning is not just about intellectual self-improvement. It's also about improving our capacity to connect with and support others. In addition to improving our interpersonal relationships, Stoic learning also enhances our relationship with ourselves. The Stoics placed a great deal of emphasis on self-knowledge, believing that true wisdom begins with understanding oneself. Continuous learning, especially in the form of self-reflection, helps us identify our strengths, weaknesses, and blind spots. It encourages us to examine our habits, thoughts, and behaviors with a critical eye, always looking for areas where we can improve. This self-examination is not meant to be harsh or punitive, but rather a compassionate process of growth. By learning more about ourselves, we become better equipped to live in alignment with our values and to make choices that lead to a more fulfilling and meaningful life. A key component of this self-knowledge is the Stoic concept of oikeiosis, or the process of becoming more attuned to our true nature. The Stoics believed that through learning and reflection, we can better understand our purpose in life and our role in the larger community. This sense of purpose is essential for living a life of virtue, as it helps us align our actions with the greater good. Continuous learning helps us refine our understanding of what it means to live virtuously, to act with integrity, and to contribute to the well-being of others. It gives us the intellectual and moral foundation to make decisions that are not only rational, but also ethically sound. Moreover, the Stoic practice of continuous learning encourages us to embrace change and uncertainty. The Stoics understood that life is constantly evolving and that the only constant is change itself. By learning to adapt to new information and new circumstances, we become more flexible and resilient in the face of life's inevitable shifts. This adaptability is a hallmark of Stoic intelligence. It allows us to remain calm and composed even when the ground beneath us seems to be shifting. Through learning, we develop the mental and emotional agility to navigate life's uncertainties with grace, knowing that change is a natural part of existence and that we can always learn something valuable from it. In a broader sense, continuous learning in Stoicism helps us cultivate a sense of purpose and direction. The Stoics believed that the pursuit of wisdom and virtue was the highest calling of human life. By dedicating ourselves to the ongoing process of learning, we align ourselves with this higher purpose. We become more aware of the impact of our actions, more mindful of the choices we make, and more committed to living in accordance with reason and virtue. This sense of purpose gives our lives meaning and helps us stay focused on what truly matters, even in the face of distractions or difficulties. Learning, in the Stoic sense, is not just about intellectual development. It's about cultivating the qualities that make us better, more thoughtful, and more virtuous individuals. It's about recognizing that life is a continuous journey of growth and that every experience, every challenge, and every encounter offers an opportunity to learn something new. By embracing this journey with humility, curiosity, and persistence, we elevate not only our intelligence but also our character. We become more resilient, more compassionate, and more attuned to the deeper truths of existence. The Stoic practice of self-reflection is one of the most profound tools for intellectual and personal growth. For the Stoics, self-reflection wasn't a sporadic exercise, but a daily ritual that allowed them to examine their thoughts, actions, and decisions with the aim of becoming wiser and more virtuous. Epictetus, in particular, advocated for taking time each day to reflect on one's behavior, asking questions such as, where did I fall short today? What did I do well? What could I improve? This deliberate process of introspection allowed the Stoics to gain insight into their own minds, helping them to identify both their strengths and weaknesses. Self-reflection in this sense becomes a powerful tool for personal transformation. The Stoics believed that without self-reflection, it is easy to fall into patterns of mindless behavior, acting out of habit rather than thoughtful intention. In the busyness of life, we often operate on autopilot, going through the motions without truly considering the motivations behind our actions or the consequences of our choices. The practice of self-reflection interrupts this automatic mode of living, offering us the opportunity to pause, look inward, and critically evaluate ourselves. This, in turn, leads to greater self-awareness, which is essential for cultivating wisdom and virtue. By consistently reflecting on our thoughts and actions, we become more conscious of our choices and more deliberate in how we engage with the world. For the Stoics, self-reflection was not about self-criticism or self-condemnation. It wasn't about harshly judging oneself for mistakes or shortcomings. Rather, it was a compassionate process of learning and growth. The Stoics understood that we are all imperfect beings, constantly learning and evolving. Self-reflection, therefore, is a way to gently guide ourselves toward improvement, to recognize where we have fallen short of our ideals, and to make a commitment to do better moving forward. This process of compassionate self-assessment allows us to learn from our mistakes without being paralyzed by guilt or shame. It encourages us to approach our imperfections with a sense of curiosity and openness, asking ourselves, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? One of the most important aspects of self-reflection in Stoicism is its role in helping us align our actions with our values. The Stoics believed that living a virtuous life was the highest goal, and self-reflection was the tool they used to ensure that their daily behavior was in line with this ideal. By regularly examining their actions, the Stoics could determine whether they were living in accordance with the principles of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. This alignment between thought and action is what the Stoics referred to as eudaimonia, a state of flourishing that results from living a life of virtue. Through self-reflection, the Stoics were able to identify areas where they were not living up to their values and make the necessary adjustments. For example, if they found that they had acted out of anger or fear, they could reflect on the underlying causes of these emotions and work to manage them more effectively in the future. This kind of reflective practice helps us to become more mindful of our emotional responses, allowing us to cultivate greater emotional intelligence and resilience. Instead of being controlled by our emotions, we learn to observe them, understand them, and ultimately guide them in a more constructive direction. Self-reflection also plays a critical role in helping us manage our desires and attachments. The Stoics believed that many of our emotional disturbances stem from misguided desires for things that are beyond our control or that are ultimately insignificant in the grand scheme of life. By reflecting on our desires, we can begin to distinguish between what is truly important and what is merely a fleeting or superficial want. This process of discernment helps us to let go of attachments that do not serve us, freeing our minds to focus on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and choices. This ability to detach from unhelpful desires is central to Stoic philosophy. The Stoics recognize that much of human suffering comes from wanting things to be different than they are, or from clinging to external outcomes over which we have little control. Through self-reflection, we can become more aware of these patterns of attachment and begin to loosen our grip on the things that do not bring lasting happiness or fulfillment. This, in turn, leads to a greater sense of inner peace and tranquility as we learn to accept life as it is, rather than constantly striving for something else. Self-reflection is also a powerful tool for developing moral clarity. The Stoics believed that in order to act with virtue, one must have a clear understanding of what is right and just. However, this understanding does not come automatically. It requires regular reflection on our beliefs, values, and principles. Through this process, we can refine our sense of morality, ensuring that our actions are aligned with the greater good. This practice helps us to avoid ethical blind spots, where we may be acting in ways that are inconsistent with our values without even realizing it. By regularly examining our behavior, we can ensure that we are living with integrity and upholding the principles of justice and fairness in our interactions with others. Another significant benefit of self-reflection is its ability to foster humility. The Stoics understood that no matter how wise or virtuous we may strive to be, we are all fallible and we all have much to learn. By engaging in regular self-reflection, we are reminded of our limitations and our ongoing need for growth and improvement. This humility is essential for intellectual and personal development because it keeps us open to new ideas, new perspectives, and new ways of thinking. When we reflect on our actions, we may realize that we were wrong, that we misunderstood a situation, or that we acted out of pride or ignorance. This realization, while sometimes uncomfortable, is a necessary part of the learning process. In fact, the Stoics believed that acknowledging our mistakes was one of the most important steps on the path to wisdom. By reflecting on where we have gone wrong, we gain valuable insights into our own thought processes and behaviors, allowing us to correct course and make better decisions in the future. This practice of learning from our mistakes is one of the key ways that self-reflection helps us elevate our intelligence. It teaches us to approach life with a mindset of continuous improvement, always looking for ways to grow, refine our thinking, and become wiser. Self-reflection also strengthens our capacity for self-control, which the Stoics considered to be one of the most important virtues. By regularly reflecting on our impulses and reactions, we develop a greater awareness of how we are tempted by desires, fears, or emotions. This awareness is the first step toward mastering these impulses. When we understand why we are drawn to certain behaviors or thoughts, we can begin to regulate them more effectively. Self-reflection, therefore, becomes a tool for cultivating the discipline and self-mastery that the Stoics so highly valued. It allows us to pause before acting impulsively, giving us the space to make more thoughtful, deliberate choices. In addition to fostering self-control, self-reflection helps us build resilience in the face of adversity. Life is full of challenges, setbacks, and difficulties, and it can be easy to become overwhelmed by these experiences. However, by reflecting on how we respond to adversity, we can gain a deeper understanding of our own strengths and weaknesses. This insight allows us to develop the mental and emotional tools necessary to navigate hardship with grace and perseverance. The Stoics believed that adversity was an opportunity for growth, and through self-reflection, we can learn to see challenges not as obstacles, but as chances to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Self-reflection, as understood by the Stoics, goes far beyond simply looking back on one's day or reviewing past actions. It is a dynamic, ongoing process of intellectual and emotional refinement that serves as a cornerstone for personal evolution. The practice of reflecting on our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors not only deepens self-awareness, but also brings about profound mental clarity. Through this deliberate contemplative process, we gain insight into our motivations and tendencies, allowing us to live with greater intention and wisdom. This active engagement with the self is what distinguishes Stoic self-reflection from mere rumination or self-criticism. It's about constructive growth and the pursuit of virtue. A key part of Stoic self-reflection involves evaluating how well we've adhered to our principles and values. The Stoics were firm in their belief that living virtuously was the ultimate goal, and to do so requires constant attention to whether our actions align with our philosophical ideals. By regularly reflecting on our behavior, we can assess whether we are truly living according to the principles of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, which are the four cardinal virtues in Stoic philosophy. These virtues act as a moral compass, guiding us in our decision-making and helping us navigate life's challenges with integrity and purpose. Self-reflection also provides the opportunity to course-correct when we notice we've strayed from these virtues. For instance, we might reflect on a situation where we acted out of fear or anger, realizing that in the moment we allowed our emotions to overpower our reason. The Stoics saw this kind of introspection not as a cause for shame, but as an essential step in developing greater self-mastery. By acknowledging our lapses in virtue, we can better understand the triggers and patterns that lead us astray and make a conscious effort to respond differently in the future. This ongoing refinement of our thoughts and actions is how we make progress toward becoming the kind of people we aspire to be. One of the most powerful aspects of Stoic self-reflection is its focus on accountability. In reflecting on our actions, we take responsibility for the choices we've made, both good and bad. The Stoics believed that we have control over our own minds, and thus we are accountable for how we respond to life's circumstances. This sense of personal responsibility is empowering because it reminds us that we have the agency to shape our character and our future through the decisions we make each day. Through self-reflection, we can hold ourselves accountable for living according to our highest values, rather than being swayed by external influences or fleeting emotions. This practice of accountability also extends to how we interact with others. The Stoics were deeply concerned with justice and fairness, and they believed that self-reflection could help us become more ethical and compassionate in our relationships. By examining how we treat others, we can identify areas where we may have acted selfishly, unfairly, or without consideration for another's well-being. This reflection allows us to adjust our behavior, ensuring that we are acting with kindness, fairness, and respect in our interactions. In this way, self-reflection fosters not only personal growth, but also contributes to more harmonious and just relationships with those around us. Another vital component of Stoic self-reflection is the cultivation of emotional awareness. The Stoics recognized that emotions are an inevitable part of the human experience, but they believed that by understanding and reflecting on our emotions, we could prevent them from overwhelming our reason. Through self-reflection, we gain insight into the emotional undercurrents that drive our actions, whether it's fear, anger, jealousy, or desire. This awareness allows us to take a step back from our emotions, observe them with detachment, and choose how to respond rather than reacting impulsively. For example, after experiencing a moment of frustration, a Stoic might reflect on the root cause of that frustration. Was it triggered by an unrealistic expectation? By a desire for something that is outside their control? Through this kind of introspective questioning, the Stoic learns to identify emotional patterns and the underlying beliefs that fuel them. This process not only helps in managing emotions more effectively, but also in reframing situations in a way that aligns with Stoic principles. Rather than being consumed by negative emotions, Stoics strive to understand them and redirect their energy toward rational, constructive action. In addition to managing negative emotions, self-reflection can also help us cultivate positive emotions, such as gratitude. The Stoics believed that a sense of gratitude for the present moment and for the things we have, rather than focusing on what we lack, was essential to living a fulfilled life. Reflecting on the blessings we often take for granted, whether it's our health, the people we love, or the opportunities we've been given, reminds us of the abundance already present in our lives. This practice of reflecting on gratitude not only elevates our mood, but also strengthens our resilience, as it shifts our focus away from what we cannot control and toward the many things we have to be thankful for. Self-reflection also nurtures humility, an essential Stoic virtue. As we look inward and examine our actions, we become more aware of our limitations, our biases, and our imperfections. This awareness fosters humility by reminding us that no matter how much we learn or how virtuous we try to be, we are always works in progress. The Stoics viewed humility not as a weakness, but as a strength, because it keeps us open to new perspectives, feedback, and the possibility of growth. Through self-reflection, we are constantly reminded that we do not know everything, and that there is always room to improve our understanding and our character. Moreover, self-reflection deepens our sense of purpose. By regularly examining our actions and decisions, we can ensure that we are living in alignment with our most important goals and values. This kind of intentional living is central to the Stoic idea of arete, or excellence in character. The Stoics believed that living a life of purpose requires conscious effort and reflection. It is not enough to simply drift through life, reacting to whatever comes our way. Instead, the Stoics urged us to reflect deeply on what matters most to us, and to let this sense of purpose guide our actions. By doing so, we can live with greater clarity and fulfillment, knowing that we are using our time and energy in ways that are meaningful and aligned with our highest aspirations. Finally, self-reflection helps us embrace the Stoic ideal of living in accordance with nature. The Stoics believed that nature operates according to a rational order, and that human beings, as part of this natural order, are most fulfilled when we live in harmony with it. Through self-reflection, we can observe where our desires, actions, or attitudes are out of sync with the natural flow of life. For example, we may realize that we are resisting change, clinging to things that are transient, or seeking control over situations that are inherently unpredictable. By reflecting on these tendencies, we can learn to accept the natural rhythms of life with greater grace, trusting in the wisdom of the universe and letting go of our need to control outcomes. In essence, the Stoic practice of self-reflection is a lifelong journey toward wisdom, self-mastery, and alignment with nature. It encourages us to live with greater awareness, integrity, and purpose, constantly striving to refine our character and elevate our intelligence. Through this process, we become not only more thoughtful and reflective individuals, but also more compassionate, resilient, and virtuous human beings. Self-reflection in the Stoic sense is more than just a mental exercise. It is a transformative practice that guides us toward living the best possible version of our lives. The Stoics were masters of emotional control, and the concept of emotional mastery is one of the most important teachings in their philosophy. They believed that while we cannot control external events, we have complete control over how we respond to them, especially in terms of our emotions. This is not about suppressing emotions or denying them, but about understanding them and learning to manage them with reason and wisdom. For the Stoics, emotional mastery was a key to living a balanced and fulfilling life, and it was crucial for cultivating a rational mind that is free from the turmoil of destructive emotions. At the heart of Stoic emotional mastery is the idea that our emotions are not caused by external events themselves, but by the judgments we make about those events. Epictetus famously said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This reflects the Stoic belief that emotions are the result of our interpretations of reality, not reality itself. For example, if we interpret a situation as a threat, we might feel fear. If we interpret a loss as catastrophic, we might feel grief. The Stoics understood that it is not the events that disturb us, but the meaning we attach to those events. By changing the way we think about situations, we can change the emotional responses that follow. This insight is incredibly empowering because it puts the responsibility for our emotional well-being squarely in our own hands. The Stoics taught that by adjusting our judgments, we can free ourselves from the grip of destructive emotions like anger, fear, envy, and anxiety. These emotions, according to the Stoics, arise from faulty judgments about what is within our control and what is not. For instance, we become angry when we think someone has wronged us, but this anger stems from the belief that the actions of others are within our control, when in fact they are not. By recognizing that we cannot control the behavior of others, we can let go of our anger and respond to the situation with calmness and clarity. This practice of emotional mastery is deeply tied to the Stoic idea of apatheia, which is often misunderstood as emotional detachment or indifference. However, apatheia in Stoicism doesn't mean feeling nothing at all. It means being free from the destructive power of irrational emotions. The Stoics did not seek to eliminate all emotions, but rather to cultivate a state of mind where emotions are tempered by reason and aligned with virtue. This means experiencing emotions in a balanced and thoughtful way without letting them overwhelm us or dictate our actions. For the Stoics, emotional mastery is about achieving a state of inner tranquility where we are not swayed by the highs and lows of emotional extremes. One of the most common emotions the Stoics sought to master was anger. Anger, they believed, was a particularly destructive emotion because it clouds our judgment and leads to rash, impulsive decisions. Seneca, in his essay on anger, writes extensively about the dangers of this emotion, describing it as a form of temporary madness. According to Seneca, anger arises from unrealistic expectations that others should behave in ways that align with our desires, or that life should unfold exactly as we wish. When these expectations are not met, we react with anger. The Stoics taught that by adjusting our expectations and accepting the reality of the world as it is, we can prevent anger from taking hold. The Stoics also placed great importance on managing fear, particularly the fear of death, which they believed was one of the most pervasive and irrational fears. They argued that fear arises from misunderstanding the nature of death and from the mistaken belief that death is something to be avoided at all costs. The Stoics encouraged people to reflect on the inevitability of death, not to instill fear, but to help them accept it as a natural part of life. By doing so, they believed that we could free ourselves from the paralyzing effects of fear and live with greater courage and freedom. This practice of confronting death, known as memento mori, is one of the most powerful tools for emotional mastery in Stoic philosophy. It teaches us to let go of the fear of the unknown and to focus on living virtuously in the present moment. Another key emotion that the Stoics sought to manage was desire, particularly the desire for external things like wealth, status, and pleasure. The Stoics believed that excessive attachment to these external goods was a source of much human suffering. When we desire things that are outside of our control, we set ourselves up for disappointment and frustration. The Stoics taught that true happiness and fulfillment come not from external possessions, but from cultivating inner virtues like wisdom, courage, and self-discipline. By managing our desires and focusing on what is within our control, we can free ourselves from the endless pursuit of external validation and live a life of greater contentment. In addition to managing negative emotions, the Stoics also emphasized the importance of cultivating positive emotions like joy and gratitude. However, their understanding of these emotions was different from the modern conception. The Stoic idea of joy was not about fleeting pleasure or external rewards. It was about the deep sense of contentment that comes from living in accordance with virtue. This kind of joy is stable and enduring because it is rooted in things that are within our control, our thoughts, actions, and character. For the Stoics, joy is the natural result of living a life that is aligned with reason and virtue, and it is not dependent on external circumstances. Gratitude was also central to Stoic emotional mastery. The Stoics taught that by cultivating gratitude for what we have, rather than focusing on what we lack, we can maintain a state of emotional equilibrium. Marcus Aurelius often wrote in his meditations about the importance of being grateful for the present moment, for the people in his life, and for the opportunities he had to grow and learn. This practice of gratitude helps to shift our focus away from desires and toward appreciation, fostering a sense of emotional contentment and resilience. The Stoics believed that by regularly reflecting on what we are grateful for, we can prevent ourselves from falling into patterns of dissatisfaction and envy. A critical aspect of emotional mastery in Stoicism is the practice of mindfulness, or prososh. This involves paying careful attention to our thoughts and emotions as they arise, without being swept away by them. By cultivating mindfulness, we can catch our emotions in the moment before they escalate into something destructive. For example, when we feel the beginnings of anger, we can pause and examine the thought behind it. What judgment or expectation is fueling this emotion? Is it based on something we can control, or is it tied to an external event or the actions of others? By bringing mindful awareness to our emotions, we can interrupt the automatic reaction and choose a more rational response. Mindfulness also allows us to observe our emotions with greater detachment. The Stoics believed that emotions are a natural part of the human experience, but they do not define who we are. By learning to observe our emotions without identifying with them, we create space between ourselves and our emotional reactions. This space gives us the freedom to respond with reason rather than being controlled by emotional impulses. The Stoics encouraged us to see emotions as temporary states that pass through us, rather than as permanent features of our identity. This perspective helps to reduce the power that emotions have over us, making it easier to manage them with clarity and wisdom. In practice, emotional mastery doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring emotions. The Stoics were not advocating for a robotic, emotionless existence. Instead, they taught that emotions are natural, but must be guided by reason. This means acknowledging our emotions, understanding their origins, and using reason to determine how best to respond to them. For instance, if we feel sadness after a loss, the Stoics would not suggest that we ignore or repress that sadness. Instead, they would encourage us to reflect on the nature of loss, accept it as part of life, and use that sadness as an opportunity to strengthen our resilience and understanding of the impermanence of all things. Emotional mastery in Stoicism is about achieving a balance between feeling and reason. It is about living in harmony with nature, which includes our emotional nature, but doing so in a way that promotes inner peace and virtuous action. The Stoics believed that when we learn to manage our emotions, we free ourselves from the turbulence of irrational reactions, allowing us to think more clearly, make better decisions, and live with greater purpose. Emotional mastery, therefore, is not just about controlling emotions, it's about transforming them into allies that support our quest for wisdom, virtue, and a life of meaning. Through this practice, we can navigate the challenges of life with greater calm, resilience, and understanding, elevating not only our emotional intelligence, but our overall well-being. As we further explore the Stoic concept of emotional mastery, it becomes clear that the practice is not simply about gaining control over emotions, but about transforming our relationship with them. The Stoics recognize that emotions are an integral part of the human experience and can serve as valuable signals, alerting us to situations that require our attention. However, the key distinction they made was in how we respond to these emotional signals. Rather than being ruled by emotions, the Stoics believed that we should govern them with reason, using them as tools to help us navigate life rather than as masters that dictate our actions. One of the profound benefits of emotional mastery is the sense of freedom it brings. The Stoics understood that when we are enslaved by our emotions, whether it's fear, anger, envy, or desire, we lose our ability to make rational choices. Our judgment becomes clouded, and we act impulsively, often to our own detriment. Emotional mastery, therefore, is not just about keeping emotions in check. It's about reclaiming our freedom to choose how we respond to life's events. By learning to manage our emotions effectively, we regain control over our actions and our state of mind, allowing us to live more deliberately and in alignment with our values. This freedom is particularly important when it comes to managing negative emotions like fear and anxiety. In modern life, these emotions can arise from a variety of sources, from personal challenges to global uncertainties. However, the Stoics believed that fear and anxiety often stem from worrying about things that are beyond our control. They taught that by focusing on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and our responses, we can reduce the power that fear and anxiety have over us. This shift in focus is liberating because it reminds us that we don't have to be at the mercy of external events. We can choose how we interpret and respond to those events, which in turn influences how we feel about them. A critical part of Stoic emotional mastery involves the practice of premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This exercise involves mentally preparing for possible challenges, setbacks, or misfortunes before they happen. Far from being a pessimistic exercise, premeditatio malorum helps us build resilience by allowing us to confront our fears and anxieties head-on, rather than being blindsided by them. By visualizing potential difficulties in advance, we reduce the emotional shock of unexpected events and cultivate a calm, prepared state of mind. This practice allows us to face life's uncertainties with greater confidence, knowing that we have already considered how we will respond to adversity. Through premeditatio malorum, we also develop a sense of acceptance, which is central to Stoic emotional mastery. The Stoics believed that much of our emotional suffering comes from resisting the natural flow of life, wishing that things were different than they are, or clinging to outcomes that we cannot control. By accepting that life is unpredictable and that challenges are inevitable, we free ourselves from the constant struggle against reality. This acceptance doesn't mean passivity or resignation. Rather, it is an active acknowledgement of the limits of our control and a focus on what we can influence, our inner state and our actions. This mindset helps to reduce emotional turmoil as we stop fighting against the inevitable and instead focus on adapting and responding with wisdom. Emotional mastery also involves the Stoic practice of ataraxia, or inner tranquility. The Stoics believed that true peace of mind comes from cultivating a state of calm that is unaffected by external circumstances. This inner tranquility is not about numbing ourselves to life's events, but about maintaining a steady, balanced perspective in the face of both success and failure, pleasure and pain. To achieve ataraxia, the Stoics encouraged us to detach our happiness from external outcomes and to anchor it in something more stable, our own virtue and rationality. When we base our sense of well-being on factors within our control, we become less vulnerable to the emotional highs and lows that come from chasing external rewards or fearing external losses. A practical way to cultivate this inner tranquility is through the Stoic exercise of perspective taking. The Stoics often advised stepping back from situations to view them from a broader, more objective perspective. Marcus Aurelius, for example, frequently reminded himself to see events from the vantage point of the universe, recognizing that individual struggles and desires are small in the grand scheme of things. This ability to take a step back and see the bigger picture helps to put our emotions into context. It reduces the intensity of emotional reactions by reminding us that many of the things we worry about are fleeting and insignificant in the long run. By practicing this kind of detachment, we can navigate life's challenges with a greater sense of calm and equanimity. Stoic emotional mastery also emphasizes the importance of empathy and compassion in managing our emotions, particularly in our interactions with others. The Stoics understood that much of our emotional distress comes from conflicts and misunderstandings with other people. However, they believed that by cultivating empathy, we could better understand the perspectives and motivations of others, which would help us respond with patience and kindness rather than anger or frustration. Seneca, in particular, wrote extensively about the importance of compassion, reminding us that everyone is fighting their own internal battles and that we should approach others with understanding rather than judgment. This compassionate approach to emotional mastery is not only beneficial in our relationships with others, but also in our relationship with ourselves. The Stoics encouraged us to be patient and compassionate with ourselves as we work to manage our emotions and improve our character. Emotional mastery is not something that happens overnight, and the Stoics recognized that we will make mistakes along the way. Rather than being harsh or self-critical when we fall short, the Stoics advocated for a gentle but firm commitment to self-improvement. Each moment of emotional turbulence becomes an opportunity to practice resilience and to learn more about ourselves. Over time, this practice strengthens our ability to navigate life's emotional challenges with greater wisdom and grace. Stoic emotional mastery is not about eliminating emotions or becoming emotionally numb. On the contrary, it is about embracing our emotions in a way that aligns with reason and virtue. The Stoics understood that emotions are a natural and essential part of the human experience, but they also recognized that unchecked emotions can lead to irrational behavior and suffering. Emotional mastery, then, is about finding a balance between feeling and reason, allowing our emotions to guide us without overwhelming our judgment. It is about learning to respond to emotions in a way that is thoughtful, measured, and constructive. This practice of emotional mastery ultimately leads to a life of greater fulfillment and inner peace. When we are no longer at the mercy of destructive emotions, we are free to pursue our goals, cultivate meaningful relationships, and engage with the world in a way that reflects our deepest values. Emotional mastery gives us the clarity and stability we need to live with purpose and to navigate life's inevitable challenges with confidence and resilience. It allows us to experience the full range of human emotions without being controlled by them, leading to a richer, more balanced, and more virtuous life. In essence, Stoic emotional mastery is about living in harmony with both our inner and outer worlds. It is about recognizing the power we have to shape our emotional landscape through the choices we make in how we think, perceive, and act. By cultivating emotional mastery, we elevate not only our emotional intelligence, but also our overall capacity for wisdom, resilience, and inner tranquility. This is the Stoic path to emotional freedom, a life in which we are the masters of our emotions, not their servants, and where our minds remain calm, clear, and grounded, no matter what life throws our way. The practice of deliberate action is one of the most powerful Stoic strategies for living a life of purpose and wisdom. For the Stoics, action wasn't something to be taken lightly or impulsively. It was to be approached with intention, reason, and care. This idea is grounded in the Stoic principle that we are responsible for how we conduct ourselves in the world, and that every choice, every action, is an opportunity to align with virtue. Deliberate action means being mindful of what we do, why we do it, and how it contributes to the greater good, both for ourselves and for others. At its core, deliberate action is about being intentional with our time, energy, and efforts. The Stoics believed that many people drift through life without clear purpose, reacting to circumstances rather than acting with purpose and direction. This, they argued, leads to a life that feels scattered and unfulfilled. To avoid this, the Stoics emphasized the importance of reflecting on our actions before taking them, ensuring that they are in harmony with our principles and values. Deliberate action, then, is about acting in accordance with reason, not impulse. It requires us to pause, consider the consequences of our actions, and make choices that are aligned with our long-term goals and ethical beliefs. For the Stoics, this practice of deliberate action was closely tied to the idea of praxis, which is the practical application of philosophy to everyday life. The Stoics didn't see philosophy as an abstract set of ideas or intellectual exercises. They viewed it as a guide for how to live. They believed that knowledge and wisdom were meaningless unless they were applied in real-world actions. This emphasis on praxis means that Stoic learning isn't passive or theoretical. It's active, practical, and embodied in the choices we make every day. When we engage in deliberate action, we are putting Stoic principles into practice, demonstrating our commitment to living virtuously in every aspect of life. One of the most important aspects of deliberate action is the focus on acting in alignment with what is within our control. The Stoics understood that while we cannot control the outcomes of our actions, we can control the intentions and efforts we put into them. This is a crucial distinction in Stoic philosophy. By focusing on what we can control, our thoughts, our choices, and our behaviors, we free ourselves from the anxiety and frustration that comes from trying to manage external events or other people's reactions. This allows us to act with clarity and purpose, knowing that our responsibility lies not in the outcome, but in the integrity of the action itself. In practice, deliberate action means being thoughtful about every decision, no matter how small. It requires us to constantly ask ourselves, is this action aligned with my values? Is this the right thing to do? Does this contribute to my long-term goals, or is it a distraction? This kind of reflection helps us prioritize what is truly important and avoid getting caught up in trivial matters that don't serve our higher purpose. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to focus on what is essential and to avoid wasting time on things that do not matter. This kind of intentionality is the heart of deliberate action, and it ensures that we are living a life of purpose rather than drifting aimlessly from one task to the next. Another key element of deliberate action is the Stoic principle of phronesis, or practical wisdom. The Stoics believed that wisdom was not just about knowing what is right, but about applying that knowledge in a way that leads to good outcomes. Practical wisdom is the ability to make sound decisions, even in complex or challenging situations. It involves thinking through the consequences of our actions, considering how they will impact others, and ensuring that they are in line with ethical principles. Deliberate action, then, is about exercising this kind of wisdom in every decision we make, whether it's a major life choice or a simple daily task. In Stoicism, deliberate action also involves the practice of prohairesis, which refers to our ability to choose our responses to the situations we face. Prohairesis is one of the most important concepts in Stoic thought because it highlights our capacity for moral choice. No matter what happens to us externally, we always have the power to choose how we respond. This means that deliberate action is not just about planning and forethought. It's about exercising our moral freedom to choose actions that reflect our highest values, even in difficult circumstances. When we practice prohairesis, we are taking ownership of our actions and refusing to be driven by external forces or emotional reactions. Deliberate action also requires us to cultivate patience and perseverance. The Stoics understood that meaningful change and progress take time, and they warned against the dangers of impatience and impulsiveness. Seneca often wrote about the importance of steady, consistent effort in achieving one's goals. He reminded his readers that true success doesn't come from rushing or forcing things to happen, but from taking deliberate steps over time. This kind of patient action is essential in the Stoic practice of praxis, where each small, deliberate choice contributes to the cultivation of virtue and wisdom. By focusing on the process rather than the immediate results, we ensure that our actions are sustainable and aligned with our long-term goals. Another important aspect of deliberate action is the Stoic commitment to acting in service to others. The Stoics believed that we are all part of a larger community and that our actions should contribute to the well-being of the whole. This idea is rooted in their concept of cosmopolitanism, the belief that all human beings are citizens of the world and that we have a responsibility to act for the common good. Deliberate action, then, is not just about personal success or self-improvement. It's about contributing to the greater good through actions that promote justice, kindness, and cooperation. For the Stoics, living a life of virtue means recognizing our interconnectedness with others and acting in ways that benefit society as a whole. In this context, deliberate action requires us to be mindful of how our choices impact those around us. It calls for empathy, compassion, and a sense of responsibility for the well-being of others. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on his duty to act in the service of the greater good, reminding himself that he was not just an individual, but a part of a larger community. This sense of duty is central to Stoic ethics, and it ensures that our actions are not self-centered, but aligned with the principles of justice and fairness. By acting deliberately in the service of others, we elevate our actions beyond mere personal gain and contribute to the creation of a more just and harmonious world. Deliberate action also helps us develop resilience in the face of adversity. The Stoics believed that life is full of challenges, setbacks, and hardships, but that these obstacles are not reasons to give up or act rashly. Instead, they are opportunities to practice resilience and perseverance. When we approach challenges with a deliberate mindset, we are less likely to be overwhelmed by them. We can take a step back, assess the situation with reason, and choose a course of action that aligns with our values and long-term goals. This kind of deliberate response to adversity helps us stay grounded and focused, even in difficult times, and it ensures that we are acting in ways that promote growth and learning rather than being driven by fear or frustration. In many ways, deliberate action is about living with integrity. It's about ensuring that our actions align with our words, our values, and our understanding of what is right. The Stoics believed that integrity was one of the highest virtues, and they emphasized the importance of being consistent in our actions. This means not acting one way in private and another way in public, and not allowing external pressures to sway us from our principles. When we act with integrity, we build trust in ourselves and in others, knowing that our actions are rooted in a strong foundation of virtue and wisdom. Ultimately, the practice of deliberate action leads to a life of greater fulfillment and purpose. When we act with intention, reason, and care, we create a sense of coherence and direction in our lives. We are no longer at the mercy of external events or fleeting desires. Instead, we are in control of our actions and our destiny. This kind of purposeful living is what the Stoics referred to as eudaimonia, the flourishing life that comes from living in accordance with virtue. By practicing deliberate action, we align ourselves with this Stoic ideal, ensuring that our choices reflect the best of who we are and what we stand for. As we continue exploring the concept of deliberate action in Stoic philosophy, it becomes increasingly clear that this principle isn't just about careful planning or thoughtful decision-making. It's about embodying a deep sense of purpose and self-awareness in every aspect of life. Deliberate action calls for a level of mindfulness that prevents us from drifting aimlessly through life or being swept away by external forces. Instead, it encourages us to take full ownership of our actions, ensuring that they are guided by reason, virtue, and an unwavering commitment to our long-term goals. A critical aspect of deliberate action is its ability to help us maintain clarity in the midst of chaos. Life is often unpredictable, filled with sudden challenges, distractions, and pressures that can push us off course. The Stoics understood this well and emphasized that deliberate action allows us to regain control of our trajectory, even when circumstances are difficult. When we act deliberately, we are not reacting impulsively to the emotions or stresses of the moment. We are pausing to assess the situation, weighing our options, and making decisions that are in line with our values and goals. This capacity to act deliberately in the face of chaos is what gives Stoicism its unique power to cultivate resilience and calmness under pressure. This calmness doesn't come from inaction or passivity, but from the confidence that comes with knowing that our actions are thoughtful and aligned with our deeper sense of purpose. Marcus Aurelius frequently wrote about the importance of staying composed and focused amid the distractions of life. He urged himself to act without haste or anxiety, reminding himself that deliberate, purposeful action is always superior to impulsive or erratic behavior. By staying calm and deliberate, we ensure that our actions are effective and that we are not wasting energy on things beyond our control. Deliberate action also allows us to conserve our mental and emotional resources. In the modern world, where we are constantly bombarded with demands for our attention, be it from technology, work, or social obligations, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. The Stoics, however, teach us that we don't need to respond to every stimulus or opportunity. Instead, deliberate action encourages us to prioritize and focus only on what truly matters. This practice of discerning where to direct our time and energy is essential for maintaining balance and avoiding burnout. By choosing to engage only in actions that are aligned with our values, we protect ourselves from the drain of meaningless distractions and ensure that our efforts are concentrated on what will bring lasting fulfillment and progress. In addition to its role in maintaining focus, deliberate action fosters a sense of discipline that is essential for achieving our goals. The Stoics believed that discipline was one of the cornerstones of a virtuous life, and they understood that meaningful accomplishments don't happen by accident. They are the result of consistent, deliberate effort. This kind of disciplined action requires us to be patient and persistent, recognizing that progress is often slow and that setbacks are inevitable. When we act deliberately, we are committing to a process of continuous improvement, knowing that each small step forward, no matter how insignificant it may seem, brings us closer to our larger goals. Seneca often spoke about the importance of taking deliberate steps towards self-improvement, warning against the temptation to seek quick fixes or shortcuts. He believed that true success comes from steady, thoughtful effort over time, not from rash decisions or hurried actions. This Stoic discipline is not about perfection or rigid adherence to a set of rules. It's about consistently aligning our actions with our values and being willing to adjust and adapt as we learn and grow. Deliberate action teaches us to be both patient and persistent, understanding that real change comes from the accumulation of small, deliberate choices rather than from grand, dramatic gestures. Another crucial dimension of deliberate action is the ability to act in alignment with our sense of purpose, even in the face of adversity or uncertainty. The Stoics recognized that life is often unpredictable and that we cannot control everything that happens to us. However, they believed that we always have control over how we respond to these events. This power of response is where the practice of deliberate action becomes most impactful. By acting with intention even when circumstances are challenging or unclear, we maintain our sense of agency and ensure that we are living in accordance with our values, regardless of external conditions. This commitment to purposeful action in the face of adversity is perhaps best exemplified by Epictetus, who was born a slave but rose to become one of the most respected philosophers of his time. Epictetus taught that no matter how difficult our circumstances may be, we always have the freedom to choose how we act. This freedom, he argued, is the true source of our power. When we act deliberately, we reclaim our autonomy, refusing to be victims of fate or circumstance. This deliberate approach to action is what allows us to maintain dignity and integrity, even in the most difficult situations. It reminds us that although we cannot control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond, and in that response lies our greatest strength. Moreover, deliberate action promotes a sense of ethical responsibility, not just toward ourselves but toward others. The Stoics believed that living virtuously meant acting in a way that benefits the broader community. This sense of social duty is deeply embedded in the Stoic concept of cosmopolitanism, which teaches that we are all part of a global community and that our actions should contribute to the well-being of others. When we act deliberately, we are more likely to consider the impact of our choices on those around us, ensuring that we are not acting out of selfishness or short-term gain, but with an eye toward justice, fairness, and the common good. This ethical dimension of deliberate action encourages us to cultivate empathy and compassion in our decision-making. Instead of rushing to judgment or reacting impulsively to others, deliberate action allows us to pause and consider their perspective. It reminds us that every action we take has the potential to affect others, and that we have a responsibility to act with kindness and consideration. In this way, deliberate action becomes not only a tool for personal growth, but also a practice that enhances our relationships and contributes to a more just and harmonious society. In the context of leadership, deliberate action becomes even more critical. Whether we are leading a team, a family, or a community, the ability to act with intention and wisdom is essential for earning the trust and respect of others. Leaders who act deliberately are thoughtful, measured, and consistent in their decisions. They take the time to listen, reflect, and consider the long-term consequences of their actions, rather than rushing into decisions driven by ego or emotion. This kind of deliberate leadership inspires confidence and fosters a sense of stability and direction in those who follow. In personal relationships too, deliberate action helps to foster deeper connections and mutual understanding. By acting with intention, we show our loved ones that we are fully present, that we care about their well-being, and that we are willing to make thoughtful decisions that strengthen the relationship. Deliberate action helps us avoid misunderstandings or conflicts that arise from thoughtless words or impulsive behavior. Instead, it encourages us to approach our relationships with patience, kindness, and a focus on long-term harmony. Ultimately, deliberate action in Stoicism is about living with purpose and integrity. It's about recognizing that every choice we make, no matter how small, has the potential to shape our character, our relationships, and our impact on the world. When we act deliberately, we are not only exercising our rational mind, but also committing ourselves to a life of virtue, wisdom, and meaningful contribution. This practice helps us stay true to our values, even in the face of challenges, and ensures that our actions are guided by reason, compassion, and a sense of responsibility. By embracing deliberate action, we elevate not only our intelligence but also our character. We become more focused, disciplined, and resilient, capable of navigating life's complexities with clarity and purpose. In the end, deliberate action is the key to living a life that is not only successful by external standards, but deeply fulfilling and aligned with the Stoic ideal of eudaimonia, a life of flourishing that comes from living in accordance with virtue. Incorporating these 5 Stoic strategies, focus, continuous learning, self-reflection, emotional mastery, and deliberate action into your daily life can transform not only the way you think, but also how you approach every challenge that comes your way. Each of these practices builds on the other, creating a foundation for sharper intellect, better decision-making, and deeper resilience. Focus allows you to concentrate on what truly matters, cutting through distractions and enhancing your ability to engage deeply with problems. Continuous learning keeps your mind agile and adaptable, always seeking new knowledge and insights that can help you grow. Self-reflection enables you to understand yourself more fully, to learn from your experiences, and to refine your character with each passing day. Emotional mastery, on the other hand, helps you remain calm and composed in the face of adversity, ensuring that you are not swayed by the highs and lows of life's inevitable challenges. And finally, deliberate action ensures that your decisions are guided by reason, virtue, and long-term goals, rather than being reactive or impulsive. When these 5 strategies are woven into your daily routine, they not only sharpen your intellect, but also create a framework for living with purpose and clarity. The Stoics understood that true intelligence isn't measured by how much knowledge you possess, but by how well you can apply that knowledge in the complexities of real life. It's about how you respond when faced with unexpected challenges, how you manage your emotions, and how you align your actions with your values. By practicing focus, continuous learning, self-reflection, emotional mastery, and deliberate action, you can navigate the world with greater wisdom and inner peace. These strategies allow you to remain steady and resilient, no matter what life throws at you, helping you not only to survive, but to thrive. So, as you integrate these Stoic principles into your life, remember that every moment offers an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to refine your thinking. Take the time to reflect on your actions. Stay curious and open to learning, and act with intention and purpose. The rewards of this practice are immense, as they lead to a life of greater fulfillment, clarity, and wisdom. And if you found value in this discussion on how Stoic strategies can elevate your mind and transform your approach to life, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Join our community as we explore more ways to cultivate a life of wisdom, resilience, and purpose. Stay focused, keep learning, and let's continue this journey together.